because I myself am a Black woman in tech. So I always love supporting the tech community. And Valerie is awesome. So thank you, Valerie. Today we'll be talking about Kendrick Lamar and the Big Steppers. I am going to share my screen. Perfect. All righty. So let's kick off with some introductions. Anybody, Dominique, can you go first? Can you guys talk or come off mute?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So just want to know your name, where you're from, and one word to describe the album. And if you have not seen the album, what do you think about the album cover?
Yeah, so my name is Dominique. I'm from St. Louis. One word to describe the album. Heavy. Yeah, I would use the word heavy.
That's a good one. Alexis, are you available?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, my name's Alexis. I'm from Dallas, Texas. One word to describe the album is tear jerking. Well, that's two words, but
Tear
yeah,
jerking.
tear jerking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Thank you, Alexis. Some words to describe the album for me is complex, deep. I like heavy too, because yeah, that's disturbing and reflective. It seems like every song that you listen to on this album, it makes you think like, oh my gosh, this is me. And that's why I love it, because it's so centered towards the African American experience, and especially being an African American man. I'm also seeing some coinciding themes that, you know, apply to all of us. So we're going to get into it. Just some background about the album. This is Kendrick Lamar's 5th studio album and 4th #1 album. It was released in May of this year. It is a double album, so it has a front side and a back side, I guess you can say. That's what they used to say back in the day, but kind of has 1 through 9 as being one album and 9 through 18 being another part of the album. It was the last album to be released on TDE. Now, me, I thought that TDE was Kendrick Lamar's label. Like, I didn't know that he was like signed to them, but he is their front runner. So yeah, it created a lot of discussion and controversy. A couple of songs on this album, I remember when it dropped, everybody was on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, talking about it, talking about what he said, the underlying theme. So we'll get into that today. And I kind of, it feels like kind of like art, you know, kind of like what God has been telling him. He often says in his songs that he is a vessel. And this is what God is kind of telling the world. His last album, Damn, came out 5 years ago. So this is kind of like an album explaining, what have you been doing for the last 5 years? And the short answer is he's been in therapy. But now we'll move on to some common themes that we're going to explore today. Childhood and generational trauma, intersectionality, religion, identity, and accountability, fatherhood. Cancel culture is a big, big, big thing. He mentions it in multiple songs. Therapy, of course, he mentions that. Materialism and toxic relationships. We'll also be talking about how we process these themes in our community. And when I say community, I mean the minority community. We all know that minorities process emotions differently than our counterparts. So just exploring these things and themes and how we work through them for each other. All righty, so let's get into it. We'll also be exploring therapeutically kind of where Kendrick is in his journey. There's different stages of change in therapy. The first one being pre-contemplation, then contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. So, of course, pre-contemplation is kind of like that area where I'm thinking about change. I'm not really sure if I want to do it or not. Actually, that's contemplation. Pre-contemplation is not even thinking about it at all. It's like we're not even trying to change. We're like, I'm staying here. I want to stay in my generational trauma. I want to stay in my auntie diaries, homophobic, transphobic, and I'm not going to change. Contemplation is where you're like, okay, maybe I should look at this a different way. Preparation is after the contemplation, getting ready, getting educated to make that change. Action is actually making that change, and maintenance is maintaining that change. So we'll be discussing how the different songs relate to the states of change in his life as well. So first, we're going to start out with United in Grief. I kind of feel like since, we don't have a lot of people, I feel like we can kind of share a snippet of, can't spell, but kind of share a snippet of what we're talking about. And if you guys haven't heard the album, and I'm just playing a little snippet before we talk.
I think we don't have the sound. So you might want to stop sharing and share again. But when you get the options to share, you have to check the little box at the bottom so you can share sound as well.
Okay. Share screen and then share sound. Okay. Oh, it's not giving me the option to share sound. So we won't be listening to clips, but
Okay.
it's like grayed out for some reason. But United in Grief, if you kind of if you listen to the album, it starts out kind of like, I hope you find a peace of mind. And he's kind of like, I've been going through something, be afraid. So this whole part of the album, I look at as pre-Mr. Morale. The second part is like, he's kind of getting into it. He's kind of getting into therapy. He's kind of recognizing the errors in his ways. So United in Grief, let's back up. This whole album is narrated by his longtime girlfriend. So they've been together since high school, and she is the one who kind of calls him out like, whoa, something's going on. You need therapy. If you go back to the album cover, you see 2 babies there. I knew that he had 1 baby, but I think this album cover was kind of like his surprise, like, hey, I got a son now. So he has 2 children now, the new one being named Enoch, which religion is a big theme in this album as well. So he named his son Enoch, and he opens up the record by framing his honesty as dangerous, the first of many disclosures to come. So throughout this whole album, he's pouring his heart out. He's disclosing a lot of stuff. One of the things he says is like, I went and got me a therapist. On the very first song, I went and got me a therapist. Some of the things he says is, I can debate on my theories and sharing it. This is while he's in therapy. Consolidate all my comparisons, humbling up because time was imperative, starting to feel like it's only one answer to everything, and I don't know what that is. I can speak for myself with just being a young person in America, searching for answers and not really knowing what that is. He says he grieves different. The whole song, it's kind of like he grieves different. And he's talking about how he met this young woman who lost somebody, and he used his grief. He acted out on his grief by having sex. And also he talks about how he buys cars and buys mansions and just basically using money to cover up that grief. So my question to you all as a community conversation, what does grief mean to you all? And when you guys have been through grief, what was your way of grieving? You can drop it in the chat. You can come off mute. Whatever's best for you.
I think for me, grief was like slowing down, and just the world kind of seeming like it stopped, or me just stopping. So whether it be like sleeping or just like very lethargic, so that for me is how grief kind of plays out, is just feeling in a fog. And
well, let me rephrase it. So do you feel like you laying down and kind of like feeling heavy and stuff, do you feel like that's how you cope with grief? Do you feel like taking that time out for yourself makes you feel better? Or like, what do you do to actually like cope and feel better? And like, what do you do that makes you think you feel better?
Yeah, because I think you're right. Yeah, that's not necessarily something that makes me feel better. It's just a natural reaction. I think pulling myself out of that, so like forcing myself to either get up and cook, or like I don't know, just get a meal that I really enjoy, or like going outside in nature.
Okay. So keeping yourself busy, cooking, going outside in nature. Yeah, that is kind of keeping yourself busy and distracted. And I think that different people have different ways of distracting themselves. So yeah, thank you for your contribution. But yeah, united in grief is kind of like everybody grieves different. So when we encounter people that are grieving, even the big people that they have millions and millions of dollars, you know, we should show some type of compassion, because us in this community, the way we show grief may be seen as insensitive, or like we don't care, or we just want to spend money, you know. So just opening up his eyes and kind of expressing his lack of peace, confusion, self-realization, contemplative kind of. I think here he might be pre-contemplative, because he's not even trying to change. He's just so grief-stricken that change is not really even on his mind just yet. He's recognizing that, hey, me having sex, me spending money, me doing these things may not be the best thing, but he's still doing it. So we'll move on to N95. I really, really like N95. It's about materialism, which is really, really big in our community. Just piggybacking off of United in Grief, a lot of these rappers come from poverty. So the way that they kind of flex and they make themselves feel better is to, buy the Dolce, buy the Birkins, do this and do that. So that whole part is a big, big theme in here. So he's basically talking about selling your soul for the aesthetic, which we do from time to time, especially in our community. We have so much trauma, so much grief. We try to get those outlets elsewhere. So he starts off, take off the Dolce, take off the Birkin bag. And when you take that all away, what do you have? You ugly as, that's what he's saying. When you take off all that stuff, worry about what's on the inside. He also says something about cancel culture for the first time. So he says, like, what the fuck is cancel culture, dog? Say what I want about you niggas. I'm like Oprah, dog. I treat you crackers like I'm Jigga. Watch, I own it all. Oh, you worry about a critic? That ain't protocol. So basically, he's like, forget cancel culture. I'm gonna say what I want, and yeah. So my question to you all is, I know I really shouldn't be asking questions, but Alexis, if you can, how do you feel about cancel culture? Do you feel like it's a real thing? Do you feel like you've canceled somebody? Have you ever canceled somebody, Alexis, if you're listening?
I am listening. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Dominique, how do you feel about cancel culture? They might have stepped away. Oh.
Yeah, I feel like I struggle with it. Like it definitely has been like a knee-jerk reaction, but I also struggle with the fact too of like, I don't know, forgiveness, or giving people the chance to grow, because knowing that we're always evolving. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck between the two of like, yes, I want to cancel, and I feel like I have canceled certain people, but also like, I don't know how to make space for, all right, we've grown and we can move on, like past that.
Right. That's the perfect way to say it. And it's kind of like, there's kind of levels to it, right? So like, somebody saying, oh, I don't like this person, or okay, prime example, oh, somebody, a rapper coming out saying, I don't believe in Jesus, may be a different cancel culture than somebody coming on and saying like an accused rapist or accused of something. There's levels to the cancel culture. So it's definitely not a black and white thing. It is a very gray area. Kendrick Lamar on this album, and we'll go ahead and transfer into Worldwide Steppers, because Kendrick Lamar on this album has Kodak everywhere, all through and out this album. So when you're talking about cancel culture, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shandell. I just wanted to chime in about cancel culture.
Sure.
I'm sorry if I can't always answer. I'm at work right now.
Oh, no, that's totally fine.
But yes, I do believe in cancel culture. Yes, I have canceled people. I think media makes it more than what it is, but cancel culture has always been around. It just hasn't been named in the past, you know? When you get into it with a friend and you decide, you know, that it's over with, they canceled, you know, like that's it with it. That's cancel culture. It doesn't always have to be, oh, this person, like a good example would be Daniel Caesar. He had put something on the internet about him defending some white girl, and everybody was like, he's canceled. See, like stuff like that. I feel like that's real outlandish and unreal, because you can't cancel him. Like if he still want to sing, he want to sing.
He asked them to, though. He said, cancel me, and then they said, okay.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, his response was, whenever that was going on and he defended that, yes, Jules, I think it was. I remember, because this is like a cancel culture.
It was
perfect
a big
example. It was a big thing. He kind of was like, go ahead and cancel me. And they did. They got him up out of there.
But it's crazy though, because like in the real world though, like in this real world that we live in outside of the internet, is Daniel Caesar really canceled? If he want to come out with another album, will his true fans really buy it? You know what I'm saying? Like, is he really canceled, or is that just a made up thing for the internet? You know, so I think, like you said, there are different levels to it, but for sure, cancel culture has been around forever.
Forever. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I think that Kendrick putting Kodak on this was the equivalent of Kanye putting Marilyn Manson and DaBaby on Donda. Like, he's like, I don't care what you guys say, I fuck with Kodak. So y'all finna get this, y'all finna get these bars from Kodak. So Worldwide Steppers, of course, it's Kodak. This one is kind of like, was very controversial, because Kendrick was talking about how he had sex with a white woman and how he kind of felt like this is kind of getting back at, this is honoring his ancestors. So, and then he also mentioned, like, does that make me a racist because I'm having sex with these white women just to get back at them? So what I wanted to talk about is, can Kendrick be racist? Do you feel like it's a racist thing to have sex with interracial sexual relationships in the name of getting back at the white race? Boss 2.0, what's your name? Can you kind of introduce yourself? If you can't, it's okay. No worries, but I see you came in, so I just wanted to say hey and involve you in the conversation. No? Okay.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wow. Okay, good.
Welcome in. What's your name?
My name is Brian. I do go by Boss. I'm in the blockchain tech space. But yes, hello, good evening. Sorry for my tardiness. I was at work as well and had to come in a little bit late, but I'm glad to be here now. Yes, thanks for kind of having this conversation. I kind of love where it's starting, where I came in. I've heard bits and pieces of the Kendrick Lamar album, but I do think that a lot of the content and a lot of the topics that he spoke about are things that we have to continue to wrestle with in our Black community. So I'm looking forward to continuing to conversation, and I'll definitely chime in where I can. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Boss. I love saying that. Thanks, Boss. So on the
to answer your question, I don't think it's racist. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because I am black, but I don't think it's racist. It's real spiteful, but I don't find it racist at all.
Okay. And then he goes on to saying, like, the media is the new religion. You killed the consciousness. Your jealousy is way too pretentious. You killed the accomplishments. Niggas kill freedom of speech. Everyone's sensitive. If your opinion fuck around and leak, might as well send you your will. So basically he's saying, like, cancel culture, you can't say nothing in this world. And I kind of agree. I kind of agree that if you're a celebrity, you need to watch what you say. And it's not only because, like, okay, the media is taking away the consciousness in the media. I think that people should be cognizant when they do reach a platform that what they say affects people. So just skipping on down to Savior, which is on the second side, Savior is kind of like, what did he say? LeBron, what did he say? I want to give you the exact. So he says, Kendrick made you think about it, but he's not your savior. Cole made you feel empowered, but he's not your savior. Future said, get a money counter, but he is not your savior. Brian made you give his flowers, but he is not your savior. He is not your savior. So going back to that, these people ain't special. These people are not special. Anybody can get canceled. And a lot of people look at people as their saviors and, oh, I'm going to hang on to every word that they say. You can't hang on to every word that they say because they have their own opinions, and that's where the cancel culture comes in. But we're going to go ahead and speed up because I know we only have 30 minutes. I have so much to touch on. Die Hard, that's a bop. Do y'all like Die Hard? Is anybody like really familiar with the album? Because if you're familiar with the album, this is one of the songs that I go to first. Like Die Hard, if you just want to like feel upbeat.
Most definitely.
Yes. So this is actually a love song to me. It's kind of like I slide the pain away. I hope I'm not too late to set my demons straight. I know I made you wait, but how much can you take? I hope you see the God in me. I hope you can see. And if it's up, stay down for me. So to me, I think he's talking to Whitney. And Whitney is his longtime girlfriend that is narrating the album. And he's kind of saying, like, I hope it's not too late for me to get my act together and to be with you. This is kind of like weird for me too, because he's talking about, I think Blast is the one that's singing this. And Blast is kind of saying, like, baby, you make me pray for London. And if I want it all, I would want you involved. Because if you're not involved, it wouldn't be for nothing. So I think this is kind of like a break in the album to kind of do an upbeat love song. I don't want you to leave. Please stay with me while I'm going through this change. This to me is part of like the contemplative stage of change. He's kind of like, ooh, I'm realizing that my demons are getting to me. And yeah. And then he goes back into the deep stuff again with Father Time. So Father Time is really, really, really prevalent in the Black community. The theme of Father Time, and that is the toxic masculinity of not feeling feelings, not feeling anything, because that's the way Kendrick was raised. He kind of starts out with, or Whitney starts out with, you really need some therapy. Kendrick goes, real nigga don't need no therapy. Fuck you talking about? And she's like, nah, you sound stupid as fuck. And he's like, shit, everybody's stupid. And she's like, yeah, well, you need to reach out to Eckhart. So I think Eckhart, he mentions Eckhart throughout the album. I think that might be his psychologist. He leaves a lot to the imagination, but me, I make stuff up in my mind, really don't use context clues, but Eckhart, I believe, is his psychologist. And this touches on Black boy childhood trauma to the T. So just to read a little bit of what he says, the hook is tough love, bottled up, no chaser, neat, no chaser. So if you know anything about a neat drink, it's straight, no Juice afterwards, he's saying that the tough love that his dad gave him was straight like that, straight like a shot, no chaser. He also says, you know, I got daddy issues. That's on me. Looking for I love you, but he's rarely emphasizing for my relief. A child that grew accustomed jumping up when I scraped my knee, because if I cried about it, he'd surely tell me not to be weak. Daddy issues, hid my emotions, never express myself. Men should never show feelings. Being sensitive never helped. His mama died. Talk about his dad. His mom died. I asked him, why are you going back to work so soon? And his first reply was, son, that's life, and bills don't got no silver spoon. So this is kind of like, I know we talk about toxic masculinity, but this is just us in general. Being in the African American community, we're more likely to have a lower socioeconomic status. With a lower socioeconomic status, we don't have time to grieve. So, and that's especially for Black men, because they're supposed to be like the backbone of the family. Don't show emotion, always be the rock. And I think that's a common theme throughout our community. Even with women, sometimes Black women, we're not allowed to show emotion, really, or else we'll be labeled as angry or sad or whatever you want to label it. So yeah, he says if he give up now, that's gonna cost him. Life's a bitch. You could be a bitch or step out the margin. I got up quick. So his dad was basically like, boy, you better be that nigga. That's what he said. You better be that nigga, because the world ain't gonna coddle you. The world ain't nothing. Deep. I hate that. So Rich. Rich is a spoken word by Kodak. Yay, Kodak is here again. Rich is a spoken.
1 second, we have a hand up from Boss.
Yes, Boss.
Hey, I just kind of wanted to take a second to kind of interject. When I listened to this, I got some of those same things, but it also seems like that tough love a lot of times, and the bottling up of that emotion can somewhat, like, of course we understand that it can stunt you emotionally, but it kind of harms the process of you being able to move forward for the sake of, oh, I gotta go make the money, oh, the bills are due. And so when a lot of times when that happens, there's no longer that emotion there that will cause you to even care somewhat about someone dying, or care about the emotions of my child, or care about the things that are going on around me, because the love has pretty much been wrung out of everything, because it's more about existing than about the person who is existing. So that a lot of times, that's what I get a lot of times from that, is that, yeah, we have that tough love. That tough love has taken us so far to where we no longer have the humanity of of being able to have the emotion, or to grieve, or to be, hey, like, I skipped my knee. I need a moment for you to like love on me real quick.
And that intel comes with like the therapist, I mean, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So we need food, shelter, water before we can even feel any emotion. So like, Dad, why are you going back to work so soon? Because we need to eat. Ain't no time for emotion right now. We need to eat. That's where it's coming from. But thank you, Boss, for your perspective, especially that male perspective. I really, really appreciate that. So for Rich and Rich Spirit, Rich is the interlude by Kodak Black, and he's kind of explaining how he grew up in poverty. And at the end, he's kind of like, we grew up in poverty. What did he say? He said, WIC, Red Cross, food banks, WIC. Now look at this shit. We owning the property. So he's just going through like, hey, I went through poverty. A lot of people that I grew up with ended up in the chain gang. He's learning the business, and he's learning that people that are in the business, they're not always smart. So that's what that interlude is about. And it goes into Rich Spirit, which is Kendrick Lamar kind of talking about his legacy, knowing he has a rich spirit and he doesn't need to share it with any and everybody. So he's in this song, he's like, bitch, I'm attractive and I'm off you, I'm fasting. Like, he's like, I don't even want to talk to you. He's kind of protecting what do they say? What do they say now? Just protecting your spirit, rich spirit. He's protecting it. He realizes that there's people, there's culture vultures out there that are out there to suck him dry. And he's kind of like, I'm attractive. I'm too good for this. So yeah. Now, We Cry Together, this is going to be a little conversation for all of us, because We Cry Together is something that I'm sure a lot of us have experienced. Hopefully nobody hasn't experienced it to the extent. But the We Cry Together video in itself, picture this. Okay. So it's Kendrick Lamar and Taylor Page. They're sitting in an apartment, and he's sitting there. He just got off work. Taylor Page is in the back. She's folding up clothes, minding her business. Kendrick Lamar's sitting there. He's smoking a cigarette, and he just opens up, and somebody, actually, it's the girl from Florence and the Machine. Love them. She's like, this is what the world sounds like. He comes up and he says, I swear, I'm tired of these emotional ass, ungrateful ass bitches. Excuse my language. These are all the Kendrick's words. Unstable ass, confrontational ass, dumb bitches. You want to bring a nigga down even when I'm trying to do right. We can go our separate ways right now. We can move on with your life. So they're going back and forth. They're going at it. She's in his face. He's in her face. And they're talking about different things as far as like, your mama don't like me. And he's like, but my mama gave you a Honda. Who gave you that chain around your neck? Who did this and who did that? And they're going back and forth. And she's like, well, you're the reason why Harvey Weinstein needed to be canceled. You're the reason why people think that R. Kelly, are okay. And so they're kind of blaming each other for the faults of the world. Toxic relationship, toxic masculinity, toxic femininity. That's not even a word, but I feel like this may be a little bit of toxic femininity. How did y'all feel about We Cry Together? Because that was like that's not even a song. That's like a monologue drama. How did y'all feel about that? Anybody
Definitely real life.
Definitely real life. Okay.
It's definitely real life. Just from my personal experience, the whole conversation between the two of them and the toxicness, it's real. Like those conversations are had, like going back and forth like that, just diminishing each other, trying to break each other down to see who gonna crack first. Like everything in that video, everything in that song, I felt like that's real life. People be going through that on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
I think that it's. I think, if I may, hi everyone, I'm Chris. I think that I agree. I think that it's even more so real dialogue, dealing with the real world problems as they were kind of going at each other. Some of the things that even relate to the situation that was going on. Whether you listen to the song or you listen to the video, it was almost as if they were taking out a lot of things that are going on in the world right now, and a lot of problems that we deal with as African Americans. They're taking them out on each other because at the same, and I think that's why the song is titled "We Cry Together," because yes, it's, even though it's showing an emotion of sadness, but it is a union between those two. It is something that they have in common and something that they bonded over. But sometimes you get to a point to where it's just those two, and so you arguing about those real world problems are inevitable. And so it's We Cry, I feel like, is the first part. I think it's a 3-part. When you break it down in the 3-part, it's the we part. They're together, but they're also crying together. And it's not necessarily because of each other, but it's because of the things that they're dealing with in the world and how they're not able to come to a means of compromise amongst the two of them.
Right. Thank you for that. And I love that you use the word bond, because it's kind of like they're going back and forth. It's We Cry Together, because at the end of the video or at the end of the song, they end up having sex with each other. It's like they're arguing. And then they're like, fuck you, fuck you, exactly. Fuck you. And then they're like, fuck me. Fuck. It's like we're together in this. We're both experiencing this trauma bond, you kind of call it. So yeah, thank you for that. Very, very well put. Very well put. Anybody else has any ideas or comments, concerns about We Cry Together? Because that was a That was a lot. We can move on to Purple Hearts. We got 15 minutes, y'all. I'm still in the first half. Purple Hearts, bop. It has Summer Walker on it, who slid. I usually don't like Summer Walker herself. She's not canceled to me just yet, but she's canceled to a lot of people. She slid on this. She's talking about her baby daddy and how he still wants to come around. I think that this song is just about love acceptance. I love that he's talking about, I know y'all love when y'all hear the drugs talking, but shut the fuck up when you hear love talking. And if God be the source, I am the plug talking. So this is one of his things where he's like, God is speaking through me. I know you guys do drugs. I know you guys are out and about, but when God is talking, shut up and listen. So that's what Purple Hearts, and this is the last song on this side. So I think it's a very good closer and saying that I'm starting to listen to God now. So this will be like the action stage and the therapeutic state of change. Anybody else feel like that? I'm sorry. I want to get you guys' input, but I also want to make sure I go through all of them. But session 10, Count Me Out, before he even goes into this kind of part of the album, she says, session 10, a breakthrough. So this part of the album is kind of like when he's breaking through to Mr. Morale. He's starting to realize the things that he did before isn't going to fly now. He's realizing that he has a son, he has a partner, he has somebody that he wants to be better for. Count Me Out is kind of like the pressures of the blessings and the opportunity that's given to him. He states, heavy is the head that wears the crown, to who much is given, much is required. This is basically saying, you know, I've been blessed. You can't please everybody. Sorry, that's crown. Oh, did I skip one? Count me out. Okay, so he's acknowledging here his complexity, forgiving himself, loving himself. The chorus is, I love when you count me out. So I don't know who he's really talking about, but I feel like in all, he's kind of talking about the majority, people who are in power, Caucasian people, kind of like, you're counting me out right now. He may be talking about his family, the people who he's around. He also says, like, this is me, I am blessed. Towards the end of the song, he says, anybody fighting through the stress? So this is kind of like his regret, worried, and fear, realization. And this is kind of like the contemplation and action stage. Like, I'm realizing that I'm becoming this person, which leads into crown. I really like that the pressures of his blessings that people count him out for. He states, like I said, heavy is the head that wears the crown, to who is given much is required. I think that is a positive and an accurate statement to make. When you want something and you want something big, you got to work for it. If you got that crown on your head, you can't please everybody. So just having that leadership is important to acknowledge. We'll go into Silent Hill because I do have a question, kind of community conversation question in Silent Hill. This is Kodak again, but he's talking about like head up, chest out. It's all legs. I'm stressed out. Be quiet. I'm stressed out. I'm stressed out. So Silent Hill is kind of like stress avoidance. He's realizing he's breaking through. He's seeing who he is. He has the crown on his head, the hypothetical, not the thorn crown, but let's back up. But he's basically saying that I'm this person now. I just want everybody to be quiet. Push these niggas up me like, How do you guys feel about Silent Hill? Do you guys feel like stress avoidance is the best way to deal with stress? Kind of like pushing these people off me? Or do you feel like you should face it head on, stress, address the situation? Dominic or Boss, what you feel like?
I say address it wholeheartedly. Like, I feel like when you avoid it, it grows. And I feel like a lot of times we As we avoided the stress of it, not only does that grow, but it paralyzes us from moving forward. If we, a lot of times, if we push through that wall, at least in my opinion, I find that if I push through that wall, all the stress that I thought was going to come from making the decision or from trying to sit back and avoid it, it ends up being less than what I was expecting. So a lot of times for me, I try to just push through that stress and get to the opposite side of it. Because I feel like if I avoid it, it's going to continue to grow, and then I've got to deal with that on top of the fact that I still have to deal with whatever it is that's stressing me out.
Right. Do you guys feel like this is kind of him being hypocritical too? Because we're talking about cancel culture, and he's like, people should be able to say whatever they want to say. But here on Silent Hill, he's kind of like pushing these snakes off me, like, pushing these fakes off me, like, If you say something and I feel like you a snake, and I push you off and I cancel you, that's the same thing what you say here, Kendrick. So I think that, he's trying to protect his peace, but at the same time, like Boss says, if you don't address it, it will grow. So if you cancel this person or you push these niggas off you like, it's gonna have to stay that way if you're really trying to protect that peace, unless you want to face it head on. So thank you for that perspective. Savior, like I mentioned before, he's talking about our false kind of gods, our false saviors. And Savior interlude, it opens up with a very, very powerful message. It says, if you derive your sense of identity from being a victim, let's say bad things were done to you when you were a child, you develop your sense of self that is based on the bad things that happened to you. So basically, when childhood trauma happens, therapists in him, you develop in that trauma. If there's no intervention with, which a lot of us don't get at an early age, especially us African Americans, child therapy really isn't a thing back then like it is now. So just saying, if you gain your sense of identity, your identity is going to be trauma focused, which is a precursor to disassociating. And disassociating a lot is done with these rappers and with these athletes. It's kind of like, I am at such a bad place in my life. I'm just going to go, and I feel like I want to be like Kendrick. I want to be like Cole. I want to be like Future. Future is a really big one now. Popping pills, drugs, money. So just looking at those people and being a role model for these people. A lot of these kids look at these athletes and stuff as their savior. So this is a lot of introspection in Kendrick's part. It's kind of like, are you happy for me? Who is he talking to when he says, are you happy for me? Y'all know this song? I think that he's talking about the people, like the cancel culture. He says, bite their tongue in rap lyrics, scared to be crucified about a song, but they don't admit it. Politically correct is how you keep an opinion. Niggas tight lip, fuck who dare to be different. Cancel culture again. He's kind of like, are you happy for me? But the minute I say something, y'all gonna cancel me. So am I really your savior? Auntie Diaries. Big, 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 just like We Cry Together. Big, big, big source of controversy, discussion. He goes through Auntie Diaries as a tale of the domestic and familial violence about himself, his cousins, his mother endured, in which they bottle up that pain instead of letting it out and processing it. He kind of talks about, intersectionality, LGBTQ issues. He talks about how his auntie is a man now. And also it was a big deal because he was misgendering his auntie and his uncle. He was misgendering him, and also his cousin, misgendering them. Also the F-bomb was used a lot in this. And I think a lot of people that were mad about Kendrick using that didn't really listen. It's kind of like the Dave Chappelle F word versus the N word kind of thing. So like, can you say the F word? Yeah, if you let a white person say nigga, that's when you can that's the same thing kind of to them. So my question to you all, is there anybody here in the LGBTQ community that can speak to this and to kind of lend their view on how they feel about how Kendrick expressed himself using the F word, even if you're not part of the community? How do you feel about that? Do you feel like the F word should be like commonly used, like the N word is? Like, how y'all feel about that?
I am Black and gender non-binary, and I had a big issue with this. Mm-hmm. I understand the reasoning behind it. I understand the choice of why he chose it, because it is so incendiary, and it is such a rough word to use. From my own personal opinion and being, on the spectrum of sexuality, the F-bomb has not been made a term of endearment like the N-word, like the B word.
Great call out.
That word has always been used to demean and dehumanize. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we've taken the B word, the N word, and made them something that we use in our community to find, to bind
as a term of endearment,
others. Yeah, mm-hmm. To bind our community with other Black people. When this word is used in the Black community, it's used to other people in the Black community. Mm-hmm. And so it's easy to kind of say, oh, you're kind of taking it in the direction of that's why he used it, that's what he's talking about, but it's not used with the same prevalence as B word and N word, so it can't kind of be that argument can't necessarily be used in that way. I understand it. I love that it's opening that conversation in the Black community, because that's not some of the things that we talk about in the Black community. But just to answer the question, just coming from that side, that's what I saw, and that's what I heard, and that's how I kind of processed that. And I didn't cancel him, but it's real close.
Real close. Yeah, he was pushing it there.
Because I believe that you can find different words to say the same thing when you know that word is not traditionally used in our community as a way of finding community with others. It's used to others.
Right. Thank you for that, boss. Thank you. In the song, he says, to truly understand love, switch position. Like he kind of was saying, like, before my own family member, I used to go around saying F this and F that. And now that I see somebody that I love going through this and how it affects them, now he's saying, like, oh, you want to say the F-bomb? Like, white people don't need to be saying the N-word, so don't nobody outside of that community need to be saying the F-word. And even within the community, I can't speak on the community, but even within the community, people I don't think really use that word. So I appreciate you, boss. I appreciate your dialogue there. But yeah, when I heard that, I thought of the Dave Chappelle skit and how he couldn't say the F-bomb on his show, but he could say the N-word. And really, you shouldn't be saying nothing on national TV but all right, so trigger word abuse for this, Mr. Morale. What I took from this is kind of like his realization of who he is, the Black trauma. He's kind of like in the action and maintenance stage. He's talking about how he's detoxed, and he's talking to his son Enoch, and he's kind of like, my calling is right on time, transformation. I must have had 1,000 lives and like 3,000 wives. He's talking about his son Enoch. Enoch was somebody in the Bible that lived for a very long time. And I'm guessing that he's doing this for his son, of course. He's getting sober, he's getting better, he's making that change. You're in the action change, you're in the action state. And also he's noticing that this whole thing with R. Kelly is just such a touchy subject, because me personally, I believe he did. Okay, I'll put it out there. But he's kind of like, I think about Robert Kelly. If he weren't molested, I wonder if life will fail him. I wonder if Oprah found closure. The way that she posted the hurt that woman carries. My mother abused young, like all the mothers back where we from. So he's talking about the different women in his life, and even R. Kelly being molested and how that affects them. Not to say that if you've been abused before, that means you can do it again, because I don't think Oprah went out and abused somebody else. But just this part of giving humanity to people who have been canceled. That's Kendrick does a lot of that in here. And if we go down to the Heart Part 5, if y'all see that video, he's turning into different cancel culture people. So like he's turning into Kanye, he's turning into Will Smith, he's turning into OJ, I think. And then he switches off and he goes to like Nipsey Hussle and who else does he have? Nipsey and Kobe Bryant. He turns into Nipsey and Kobe Bryant. So on this one, he's transforming faces by CGI or deep fake technology. And it follows the footsteps of its previous part. So he does have the Heart Part 1 and 5. And it's offering like commentary of the climate of African American culture and the institutionalized discrimination. The song also delves into personal themes of empathy, death, and depression from different perspectives of each person that he switched from. So in OJ Simpson's verse, he's kind of like, he addresses being done for the cultures. He mentions a bulletproof Rover, talking about his infamous Ford Bronco. And then he goes on and reflects with bipolar disorder, turning into Kanye, and how often he's been taken advantage of, and also Jussie Smollett. I can't say his name right, y'all. Jussie Smollett, and how people are hypocrites when it came to his race crime, hate crime hoax. And then Will Smith's verse reflects on the backlash he received following slapping Chris Rock. And then after a moment of silence, that's when Kobe Bryant and Nipsey comes back, and they kind of talk about fighting through hard work and dedication. And in Hustle's verse, he takes the form of a soliloquy in the aftermath of his murder, saying that he forgives his killer, but his soul is in question. Going back up to Mirror, this whole album is a mirror. It's holding up everything that he's been going through in his whole life and how he's been undoing it the last 5 years. In Mirror, he's talking about choosing himself, pressure from outside factors, and choosing the culture, and do yourself a favor and give yourself a mirror. He's kind of letting you guys know that I'm rich and I'm famous and I'm going through all this stuff. So take care of yourself too. Go to therapy. Go to somebody that looks like you, that understands the culture. So when you do make these lyrics, these Kendrick Lamar lyrics, talking about your masculinity or talking about your toxic femininity, talking about childhood trauma, they understand you. And that's when we'll move on to the thoughts and takeaways from this. Does anybody have any questions? We're right at time. I'm a little bit over. I wish we can talk more, but any thoughts, any takeaways from this session?
This was awesome. Hello, everybody. Andre here.
Hi, Andre.
Hey.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Before we jump into the conversation part, just wanted to let everyone know that we do have a poll going. We want to get feedback about how this session went, so that we can continue to improve. So just as we're talking, go ahead, fill this out. Once it's done, I'll share the poll with everyone.
Perfect. Well, how do you choose?
And I think, Boss, you came on unmuted for a second before I started speaking. Not sure if you're ready to talk or not.
No, I missed the poll. So I was like, oh no, wait, it went away. So I was trying to see if I could maneuver myself back to it.
I can't even.
Yeah, I'm having a problem getting it also. I'm sorry.
Huh. Well, tech has not been working well overall today, so I will send out a link to a survey in the email. So if you didn't get the poll here, don't worry, you'll still be able to get the poll and give us suggestions and feedback there. So there we go. We can focus on the conversation.
Sorry to interrupt, but I got back to it. If I'm on my mobile phone, so if you hit the more or wherever there more is, there's a place in the toolbar for polls, so you can access it that way.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Now we'll move on to some resources I want to give you guys. The hip hop therapy, actually, Valerie, do you think we can send these resources to the people that are here? These are just some resources and connections for different people in the diaspora, also for Latino people, Native and Indigenous people. Also, this PG Lang resource at the very bottom, that's Kendrick's press and promotion kind of website. So if you're looking for any more Kendrick Lamar, I think he might go back into hiding for another 5 years. Y'all know how he do. But also these two apps on the bottom, the Safe Place and Liberate, they're geared towards minority mental health. So if you're looking for any help, the Safe Place and Liberate would be an app for you, and we'll go ahead and send that in a follow-up email as well. But thank you guys for your time. It's been great. Is there any other feedback, comments, and questions before we end today?
Thank you so much for taking the time so much. It was great content-wise. I hope that we can do this again and continue to kind of have these conversations with the backbone of music that we listen to and that is so prevalent in our lives. So thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I can go ahead and stop sharing. There we go. Thank you guys. Valerie, you want to go ahead and end it, or?
Yeah, so thank you all for joining. Again, this was a really great session. These were hard topics to talk about, but we had the best host today to lead this conversation and have us think a little bit deeper about how we can be in community with each other. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and stop the live stream. And if anybody wants to hang out and just continue the conversation, I'll be here for like the next 10 to 15. And we can just